everyone. Welcome to yet another live stream for IT project managers hosted by a project manager. Hello and welcome if you're new here. My name is Dmitron Zhibetsky. I am the author of the Practical Project Management book and the host behind the IT Project Managers YouTube channel. And today I want to share my observations after training hundreds of project managers, where I noticed that really there are two types of project managers. One type of project managers, they are like familiar with the idea of a project chart. They know how it works, why it works, and they create it, but they never use it. And there is another type of project managers who don't use it, don't create a project chart, and then all sorts of bad things happen to them when customers are unhappy with the results of the project. So today I'm going to try to address both these auditories, and I'll show you some practical stuff on how to use a project charter after you created one. And we'll dive deep into actually practical exercise here. I will create a project charter right here, right now, together with you. And I'll show you, I'll prove you that you can basically do it with AI right now in a matter of minutes. So you have zero excuses why you can't create a project charter in the first place. So I'll put it right in front of you. I have a transcript, and this is a transcript of a meeting with customers. Well, actually, this was an exercise with my students where we simulate a project, and I acted as a customer. So you can imagine that, yes, this is a transcript with customers, but on top of it, it has some complexity because there are a lot of small talks, sidelines, so AI will have to sort throughout this. And I'll put a simple prompt. Let me read it to you. I'll make it bigger. So I have attached a transcript of meeting with a new customer. Write a project charter following Dmitro's recommendations, ensure there is no ambiguity, and I specifically want to have this include the out of scope section. So let's give it a try and see what result we get. All right, it's thinking, and I'll tell you why it's taking a bit more time than usual. All right, so let's take a look. All right, let's outline the budget tracker application. So basically, it definitely got the idea. We were discussing a simulated project that we developed for iOS, for mobiles, and it's a budget tracker family version, which allows the whole family to put their expenses in one product. So I'll just copy the project charter without even reading it for now, and I'll create a document. I'll clean up formatting, and here we go. Okay, project charter, goals and deliverable, goals and objectives. Oops, we don't want that. Okay, we can skip the formatting, but I'm just showing you how quickly you can get to something valuable that you can use on your project right away. Like it took few seconds, few minutes to generate it. All right, let me try to make it a bit bigger so you can read it. So project goal: to develop and deliver minimum viable product of iOS first mobile application for family budgeting with approximately 6 months and a limited budget. The primary objective is to create a functional application that allows families to track and categorize their spendings, setting the stage for future AI-driven features and securing future fundings. Next, we have key deliverables. All right. So what do we have as deliverables? iOS application, that's obvious, we deliver it. User interface designs, that's something we discussed with customers. It's just it captured it as a deliverable because we were specific about, okay, we first create UI designs, we show it, and then we make decision on the best approach. And what's more important, because we're hitting this saturated market, we need to develop a really easy to use application. Next, we have Azure setup, because we have a feature that was discussed. Okay, we want to recognize receipts, checks, and all that good stuff. And we want to make photos, send them to Azure, recognize them, get back the text to fill out the expenses. Obviously, there should be a API integration. We touched it a little bit, but not in many details. Open banking API integration. So this is a feature to allow the feeds of information from banks and customer data storage. So we need to store data, we need to store accounts, information, and so on. So what are key success metrics here? Okay. From our perspective as development vendor, project success will be measured on time delivery, within budget delivery, and user experience quality. Another point that AI took just from our overall conversation. Obviously, by the way, we discussed this application for more than an hour and a half, going back and forth on high-level ideas, on some features, and so on, switching between customer and client, and all that. So it captured it perfectly well, I can tell you from just my experience with my students. Then key constraints. What do we know about key constraints? Timeline. There was an explicit timeline and budget limit for a small team for 6 months prepaid. So they have to get started as quickly as possible. Budget, Azure processing time. This is a technical limitation that we should be aware. Like AI accuracy is not 100% guarantee. Notice how this project charter already shapes the expectations of the customer. Just from the conversation, we AI was able to identify the key points, the most important ideas that we discussed, that we empathized, and here it is all for you laid out. So out of scope, that's explicitly what I asked. And why did I do that? Because the customer shared a lot of ideas, like for the future, how they want to develop this great application which will capture the market with AI features and all that stuff. But we draw the line. We clearly said, okay, this is all good, but in 6 months we cannot do this. So we said, okay, web application is not a goal right now. Android application is not in this release. Gamification is not in the release. Business account guarantees. We don't, as a vendor, we don't guarantee the success of the application. We guarantee on-time delivery, storing receipts, advanced enterprise security. It's not here. And basically, that's all you need. Like for a small software development IT project, that's all the project charter you need, because if you make it much bigger, like it's 3 pages already, no one will ever read it. And on the other side, you will never be able to cover your back with all the details you put here, because it's just impossible. Now, let me just get back for a second, because you might be wondering what AI tool did I use here. And this is something exciting that I've recently announced that I work on. This is basically an AI chat bot, which is trained on 15 years of my documented hands-on practical experience. So you can imagine that this chat knows everything that my book contains. It knows all the courses that I have. It knows all like hundreds of hours of coaching sessions that I had with different students and clients. It knows about all my YouTube videos, and it's trained to give you only the practical, real world based experiences that I had. And if you compare it to the generic ChatGPT or Gemini, the problem that I notice is that, okay, we know how ChatGPT and all LLMs are trained, and they have biases, and they are biased towards the content which sounds the most like the most uh, uh, like correct from the perspective of how we used it before. You can think about it like this: everything that was on the top of Google search got into the training of AI, and now the ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, all these AI tools give you back all this generic project management theory, and you still get the same outputs as if it was Google 10 years ago. So I've decided that I want to stand against this nonsense, and that's how I created this chart. If you are interested, we'll be opening a few slots for for early adopters next week, and you can find the link in the description to get on that wait list, and you might be the first few people who will access this uh, immense amount of practical knowledge in project management. So this is you can think about it as ChatGPT for project managers. All right, but let's get back to our exercise. So we created a project chart. What does it mean? This sets goals, it sets boundaries, limitations, everything around the project, and it will be the guiding document for us to follow in this project. And again, I want to point out the main idea. We talked about out of scope items. As you can imagine, there is enough work for maybe 2 or 3 or 5 more projects that will come for this very product. It will be like series of projects. And for each of that cycle release where we decide, okay, in the next 6 months, we'll be delivering maybe Android application, or we'll be adding some features. For that project, we'll have another project chart, and it will include the scope for the next release, and likewise it will clearly specify what is out of scope, and maybe there will be more ideas that we will generate in the process, and therefore they will come into this section as well. But now, for the purpose of this current project, how do we use this document? Again, as I said, there are 2 types of project managers: those who don't create it because they don't understand the value of the document, and those who create it, but it's like just lying, collecting dust in their Google Drive or in the project folders elsewhere. So, first of all, on a very high level, you can imagine situations when customers say, "Okay, I thought about it. We need to add one more key deliverable or one more feature," and you will say, "Hey, customer, that's a great idea, but let's check what we planned, what we envisioned for the work for this project, and we'll go through maybe through the project goal, through key deliverables, success metrics, whatever." And we will ask them, "Okay, so you agreed to this document as our high-level agreement for the project. How does your new feature support the project goal? Are you sure you want to put at risk uh, the whole project, the whole goal and objective, the money that you spend, especially when they're limited, by adding another feature and breaking this release, and maybe failing the project from the start?" Okay, and this is your prism through which you will filter out any nonsenses, additional requests, change requests, and so on. So, for example, the customer may say, "Okay, we have this open banking APIs to automatically import transaction data from linked bank accounts. Here, I would be like, as a key deliverable, as a project manager, I would be a bit concerned, because that's quite an open-ended piece of scope. And when I would read this, or when I would start analyzing what AI gave me, I would definitely think about something like saying integration with 10 major banks. Now we again set the boundaries. We don't allow the scope to creep into hundreds of banks, and now it's like impossible to integrate with them one by one. And as you see, like, just by referring to the document and thinking through right at this point, like, maybe it's a second day of the project, but you already have a structure. Now, here's an important transition point, which lots of project managers don't understand. Again, based from what I see in the space. And by the way, if you are still here, let me know whether you have created a project charter at any point. Have you ever wrote this document? Have you used AI tools or not? So one thing that I notice here again is that we have key deliverable success metrics, key constraints, out of scope. What I lack here, and again, there are some obvious things that, okay, I lack assumptions and risks. Please, okay, now let's say write additional sections for this project charter. Add risks and assumptions sections. Just give me these two sections. No need to rewrite the whole chart. All right. Again, guys, I'm using my own brain dumped into AI tool to help me do my work. This is quite exciting, I would say. So what are the risks? There is some overlap between the risks, constraints. Obviously, you want to adjust this in your charter. It's not like you can potentially create a prompt which will output the exact project charter you want. That's basically the way you want to approach this. But for now, I'm just giving you a quick demo and trying to prove the point that creating project charters in these days of AI is just a matter of minutes. You can think about it, by the way, in advance, and think about outputs or inputs for project chart. If you structure the meeting with customer in a strategic way with an end goal in mind, that I will feed this transcription of our meeting, of our conversation into AI, you will start speaking and asking questions in a different way. And you may even say, okay, let's discuss things out of scope. Let's discuss risks. Let's discuss assumptions, and then try to walk them through on the meeting. And AI will catch it after that. So what assumptions? Client guidance. We assume that client, his name was Corvin, will provide necessary guidelines on the vision, high-level requirements, understanding that we as developer team will we'll guide them through software development process. Another thing that a lot of IT projects miss. This is, by the way, it's a critical stuff. I'm really glad that AI reminded me myself that it's a problem. And why it's important to mention in a project charter, because we're setting expectations that client will have to participate in the development process. They cannot just leave us and expect to get an outcome in 8 months or 10 months or 6 months. We have this limitation. We assume Azure Technology have pre-built modules. Yes, that's correct. We assume that major banks relevant to the target market support open banking AI. That's a good assumption. If you can imagine that one major bank doesn't have open banking API availability, then it's a major risk or major problem for this product. If all customers in this target audience use a specific US bank and we cannot integrate with them, they will be unhappy. Biometric authentication acceptance. We assume that users will accept. Yeah, that's not so relevant. We may or may not include it. Focus on MVP score. We assume that the client understands the limit. That's something I will not include in project charter, but rather talk this through with the clients afterwards. And yeah, that's another great assumption, that we assume that client is responsible for costs using Azure, and they understand that it will scale. It has maintenance costs. So now let's switch gears. So there is a lot of information. Obviously, before sending this document to customers and clients and stakeholders, you want to brush it up, ensure it reads all right, that it's not repeating itself in multiple areas. But we're sitting here for 20 minutes, and I've done it live with you. In 20 minutes, we have a good draft, maybe another 20 minutes, and we'll have a final draft of this document. So what to do next? This is the most important thing that you must understand. Obviously, you send it, you get an approval from clients that they read the document, they agree with everything that's said. And now comes the actual project management hard skills application. And you always want to start with key deliverables, because you always want to structure your projects with deliverables in mind, even if it's an IT project. And this is an example. I'm using this example with my students for a reason, because a lot of project managers lead projects where they have just one deliverable, the application or service. It's either mobile application or web application and nothing else. And here we have a lot of different deliverables like Azure setup, API, Open Banking API, storage, and so on and so on. So we're starting thinking a bit bigger. We start thinking about all the deliverables that we need to hand off to the customer. It's not only just this part. Because what really happens on most projects is that teams are so focused on the main deliverable that they forget about or miss deliverables that are maybe small and less important, but still they are the part of project success. So what do you do here? Basically, if you work in Jira, we'll be using Jira as an example, but it applies to any project management tool. You want to organize the work in deliverables, by deliverables. And in Jira, you have multiple ways to do this. You can use, and I recommend that you use built-in capabilities rather than workarounds. So in this case, if you run a project with one team, and even if it's multiple teams, that's not so different, but you will transfer word by word your deliverables in Jira in one of the ways. First way to do this is to use components. So you have these multiple sections, and this components tab was here for as long as we remember Jira. And you just create components for each of your deliverables. And then the basic idea is simple. When you go and start creating user stories, epics, collecting requirements in any other way, you will tag them. And as you can see, we did some work with my students already. You will tag them with these components. And now you know that these requirements, these epics, And these user stories will be for iOS component, iOS app. These epics and maybe other epics will be related to Azure platform. And you will keep this organized. And again, we can just add, oops, okay, we don't need Azure, yeah. All right, here. And you will keep track of all of that to ensure that you don't have things like this one. So project setup, where does it go? Where do we spend these extra hours? Maybe like 20 hours of work to set up project. Where does this contribute to? And you basically will select one of the components to ensure that all efforts contribute to one of the deliverables. Now, there is another idea and layer of organization that I think is critical for every project. So right now we develop this minimum viable product. And you can imagine that we'll spend 6 months for developing, discussing, brainstorming ideas, how to implement them. And there will be a lot of ideas that are good, but they don't fit into this release. So we'll put them somewhere else. And your next level of organization is to say, okay, we have a lot of things in out of scope, which customer already said they want it, but it doesn't fit into this release. And there will be a lot of great opportunities for improvement, for features in the next releases based on our work. So where do we put them? Where do we store it? And this is where you can go to Jira and again use its capabilities to full advantage, and you will create releases. And for example, at the very basic level, you can say, okay, MVP release, we know it's 6 months, and maybe something after that will come and there will be a next release. So now you will be storing everything that doesn't fit into the MVP release into this next release. And again, if you put your imagination on and this customer is happy with the work, they get the budget for future development, or this application will get funding, you can start planning out like 2 or 3 releases in advance, building a product roadmap. And you want to keep it all organized. And again, you will have basically one project charter per release. And this gives you opportunity to have like general views, dashboards, easy to understand scope of work, and places where you can put all the related stuff to this release. So you can basically put project charter here, you can link to it, you will see what epics you included uh, in this release, and so on. And this gives you a lot of flexibility, a lot of future planning, and getting ready for the next releases, even before you finish the current one. So we discussed for now the scope. So deliverables. You want always to organize all the work around deliverables, and each deliverable after that has requirements. If you want a pro tip here, I also recommend that you, from the Jira management perspective, from just good agile project management perspective, you work with your epics correctly. So the biggest mistake that people make is when they create epics or similar high-level entities, they create them like a placeholder for all ideas about this feature or about this business case. And then epics just live through 10 releases, 10 sprints, and through multiple cycles. You always want to limit an epic to the release cycle. So if we're talking about MVP release, the scope of these epics will always be only within the scope of MVP. If you need to, for example, extend home screen dashboard, improve it, make it better in release number 2, there will be a separate epic for that. And again, I hope you can imagine and realize how much structure you bring to the chaos of a normal project just by using these simple principles. And then you can always go back to the project chart and like point to the customer, say like, you agree to this, we plan the project based on this. And if you want a change, first of all, please state clearly that you invalidate your own goals and you want to change your own goals and you want to put at risk those goals. And if they say yes, you as a project manager, especially if you are an IT project manager, an agile project manager, you will say, okay, not a big deal. We can be adaptable, we can be agile. Just let's set a new goal and then reprioritize our work. It would take 4 hours maybe for you to discuss and create a new version of project chart. But at the end of the project, you will thank me for giving you these ideas, because customer will not have any leverage uh, to blame you for failed project after that if something goes wrong. And if you will deliver the project, they will thank you for keeping it so well organized. All right. So number one, you put key deliverables as your, for example, as your components in Jira. You can also do this, by the way. It's not only this way. If you want to be more agile inside Jira, you can use labels for the same purpose. Label for, and you can nest labels multiple times and use a release here and some other labels that will mean components and versions. Not ideal, but still quite good. Better than nothing. And the main idea is that after that you can have a lot of flexibility to create filters. If I will remember where they put them right now. uh, Basically, you can query all of that and create a filter only for items from MVP and only for these components. And then you can create a lot of dashboards because you have all this data already organized. But you need to start with capturing this data here. And these reports, they start working much better if you have this level of organization. But that's not all. Like, we talked about deliverables and epics, how to organize it. We talked about how to organize releases to ensure that you don't even look into the requirements that are not needed right now. So you focus all the attention of the team on the most important stuff. And in some cases, if you have like advanced planning, you'll also have a focus on the items for the next release only. You're not looking into this whole long backlog of hundreds of user stories and trying to manage it through just like as a to-do list. Next, what's more important is to take these risks and start working with them. So basically, you take a risk and like say, okay, AI recognition accuracy, we cannot guarantee that it will be 100% accurate and so on and so on. And we can start thinking about, okay, what should we do? We definitely need some workaround if AI recognition didn't work, and we still need to tell something to customer that we're not sure if it is correct data, and give them an ability to enter it manually afterwards. Or we may think about, okay, but what exactly accuracy we can get? And you may need to think about some best practices or recommendation for customers, how to take a good picture of invoice or of a receipt and submit it to the application. A lot of mitigation strategies can come up from here, but you must take this and start breaking it down into smaller risks or more specific action items. Same, for example, for this banking integration complexity. At the start of the project, you may not know or you don't have anyone on the team who knows Open Bank API, how it works, how to use it, and so on. So what can you do? If you have such a risk, if someone said like, hey, we have no idea what it is, your first instinct here should be, all right, how can I like explore this risk or how I can mitigate this risk. And instinctively, you should think about, okay, how do I put this work as early as possible? How can I do the research on this API as early as possible so that we can estimate future work? If we need to integrate with 10 different banks, how much it will take? If I were you leading this project, then definitely I would go and try to play around with this AI, get access to it, and read the documentation. All right, yeah. Like this is a business risk. You can include it depending on how you structure your work with clients. But basically, if you don't provide a service as a vendor, you don't provide a service to deliver the full end-to-end product, this is a valid risk. You say, okay, guys, you gave us the market research data, you gave us the idea, we implemented it based on that, and if it flops, it's on you because we did the application based on the market research you provided. If you work in this white space product development, like when you develop it end to end and you are responsible for market research, now it becomes a real risk. All right. So basically, you take the risks, and if you have risk register, you put them there and you break them down and you start working with them from the day one. Same with assumptions. Sometimes they overlap, but for example, open banking API availability. We assume major banks relevant to the target market support open banking API. So basically, this assumption, we need to verify it as quickly as possible. And this gives you an action item for you as a project manager and for customers to go and look at this problem as quickly as possible at the start of the project. And you need to come up with a list of 10 banks to integrate with based on that research. If you put it later on a later date, if you didn't anticipate this assumption in the first place, then you are in a tight spot. You will probably lose a lot of time. You'll probably have problems with it. And you'll be firefighting as most project managers do. So that's basically it in terms of global ideas. Put the scope in your project management tool. Start acting upon assumptions. Use project charter, assumptions, constraints, risks as an engagement point to build expectations from your key stakeholders, from your customers, clients, and subject matter experts. Explicitly stating that you assume that people will participate in the project is critical here because they need to hear it. You assume that they know it, but they don't. Believe me, customers don't know how to manage projects, you know. So you must guide them through this process. And making this document like semi-formal, you don't need the signature stuff. You can just show it to customers, walk them through, and ask them if they agree with this structure or not, whether they have any problems with it or not. So you can basically save yourself a lot of time. And once again, let's ask my brain. If you missed the starting point, I'm using my own chatbot that is trained on my 15 years of experience. And if you're interested, there is a link in the description to this video where you can join the wait list once I release it to the public. Let's ask it, how do I use this project chart to ensure project success? Boom. Let's see what I missed to explain to you just out of the top of my head about project charters. Maybe there is some good ideas from my practical experience which I just forgot. Okay, formal authorization and authority. I would say right away, I'll admit that this is not super important unless you are in the like broad enterprise environment. Aligning expectations. This is critical. It's just mirroring my thoughts. Like It's a tool to align expectations of key stakeholders, because we talk a lot in this at the start of the project, we assume a lot, but we don't read minds of our customers and clients. We just can't do that. And by capturing these notes, maybe from 2 or 3 uh, meetings, you will be able uh, to create a common vision. And by the way, I've showed you how I uploaded just one file, one transcript here, and asked AI PM Mentor to give you the project charter. But you can like go one step further. You may have the second session with customer, explaining the project charter, getting their feedback, and then combining that transcript with the existing project charter to create the second version. And that will be super powerful. All right, scope management, especially out of scope section. Boom. Another big thing that so often is missed by project managers. That's a great idea and it's noted, but this is not for this phase. As agreed to project charter, it's out of scope. Nice. Reference point for decision making. Throughout the project, you will face decisions. When in doubt, ask yourself, does this decision align with project objectives and deliverables as defined in the charter? Again, it becomes your filter for all the great ideas which you can generate, which customers can ask you, but you have this one more leverage. Even if it's not formal, if it's not a contract, you will plant a seed of doubt. At least you will ask them to think twice about their decisions and whether they want to endanger the goals that they set. Onboarding new team members. Okay, this is I didn't talk about. That's nice. So imagine you have new team members, and this project chart is an excellent starting point for orientation. People will get this business idea, the purpose of the project. That's great. Basis for planning. As I said, everything that you capture into the project charter, you basically take it from the project charter and decompose it further. You take big deliverables, break them down into smaller deliverables. If you want into epics and user stories, the idea is transferable from requirements to deliverables. And risks is the same thing. You take the risks out of the project charter, put them into risk register, start to work them out, decompose them in smaller risks. Same for assumptions, same for budgets and timelines. They will become your like limitations that you need to prove, or like prove that it's not feasible to get into those constraints. And last but not least, communication tool. I hope this implies that it's clear that it's a communication tool, because you will send it out for everyone to read and align their expectations with it, ask questions, give recommendations, and so on. And after that, every time there is a conflict in understanding, every time there is a problem with uh, with uh, with the project, you will start by looking at the project charter. And believe me, it becomes your best friend. You will always like put it in front of you and say, hey, customers, do you remember this document? We've spent time on it. Let's take a pause and ensure that we're making the right decisions based on this. All right, guys, that's it from my side about project charters. Again, if you're interested to get this super powerful AI tool, which is, I can guarantee it's better than ChatGPT or Gemini for project managers, because those tools are trained on generic project management theory from PMBOK, from blog articles written by marketing writers for all project management tools, from some users' books. This chart knows everything that I know. So if you're interested, you can get it with a link in the description. I will be opening this tool for the public in the next week, and you might be the first one to get it. It will be your project management mentor that you never had before. All right. So now, guys, if you are here, if you have any questions, I have like 5 more minutes. Feel free to write your question into the chat, and I will try to answer it here. If no questions will come, we'll just wrap. Can I work for you as an entry-level project manager? I've learned the basics of project management skills from YouTube and internship program. So, Bo, the answer is no. I don't lead projects right now. I don't have my projects internal for the business. So there is no way I can include you in any of the projects. And here's a big, maybe a disappointing part for you, is that basically no commercial project has an ability to take an outside person, not an employee, not a contractor, because of sensitive information. You don't sign NDA, they don't know you, they don't have any legal bindings with you. So asking this question, unless it's like voluntary activity where there is no stakes at all, there is no sensitive information, like you're helping on your free will basis, there is no way to get into the project. So, and even asking this question just shows your like lack of understanding how things work in the IT industry. If you have a customer who is paying you money to develop an application, they think about the application as intellectual property, and they will not allow to like anyone unknown to the organization to take this information and even sell it to the competitors. And there is no legal ways to bind such people outside, uh, even if they are like assistants to the project manager. So sorry, Paul. I would strongly recommend that you stop asking this, especially recruiters and other people in real companies, because they see it as lack of understanding. All right. Feel free to ask any questions, guys, about project chart, about project management. We have a few minutes more, and we can do this together. So Nathan, while maybe you're here with your question, let's ask chat. How do I become a project? I would even go further. How to get the first job as a project manager? The project manager. Let's leave it like that. All right. Nice. So you already foundation knowledge, you understand the basics, you learn the methodology, you study the role. Good. Gain relevant experience. So Paul, how do you gain relevant experience? You must leverage your current role. You do micro projects and side projects inside your current job, and you apply the principles that you learned, and you take them on as project management tasks. And if you do them correctly with the proper project management skills, you have the and you have my blessing. You have all the rights to put it in your resume and say that I'm a new project manager. I've tried applying project management skills to this side project where I helped my company to improve process or improve a tool. In the process of these micro projects, you will develop soft skills because you will try to lead other people to help you without authority, without your title. You will just try to explain somehow to them that this is an important part of work. Technical acumen, that's good. Tool proficiency, again, you can start with free version of ClickUp or Jira and track this project there to say, okay, I have the basic skills of using Jira because I managed my work and the side project inside Jira. Now the main part is your resume. And by the way, this tool can optimize your resume as well, because I have a very powerful course on how to write achievements-based resumes. But the idea is that without a resume filled with these side projects, you will never get a job. no one will accept. If you will continue listing out your current responsibilities in your current job, you will never get a job of a project manager. You need to transfer them and show transferable skills and show these micro projects in your resume. Network activity, that's also good. Preparation for interviews, also great once you start applying and getting invites. This is optional. As you can see that even my chatbot says that CAPM certification kind of can show your commitment and knowledge of foundational knowledge, but it's not something that gives you a lot of credits, because every employee expects that you have some relevant experience in leadership. You must be a leader first. You must know project management. You need to find ways to apply that skill at your current job. It's a game in itself. You must find a way to apply project management without authority, without title. All right, guys. Thank you for joining today for this ad hoc meeting session. We'll have a few more next weeks. So I'll see you there.